Hi, this is Andy Wenberg from Backcountry Access, and in this video, we're going to take you through the excavation phase of an avalanche rescue. Remember, shoveling or excavation is the most time-consuming phase of an avalanche rescue. Today we're going to show you some strategic shoveling techniques using 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 shovelers. Before we get started, there's 4 key concepts to remember when shoveling. These can be called the A, B, C, and D of shoveling. A stands for airway. You always want to start digging downhill of the probe to preserve the victim's airway. B stands for burial depth. The burial depth is going to determine where you begin shoveling. In burials of less than a meter, you can begin shoveling immediately downhill of the probe. In burials over a meter deep, you're going to want to begin shoveling downhill of the probe at about 1.5 times the burial depth. So if you had a 2-meter burial, you'd start digging about 3 meters downhill of the probe. C stands for clearing snow to the sides. It's really important that you're digging efficiently out there. By moving snow to the sides, you're limiting your movement and your overall fatigue. D stands for digging only once. You only want to have to touch the snow you move once and not have to move it a second time.
With a burial depth of less than 1 meter, begin excavating immediately downhill of the probe strike. With a burial depth greater than 1 meter, begin excavating downhill at 1.5 times the burial depth. With a burial depth less than 1 meter deep, both rescuers can begin excavating immediately downhill of the probe strike, side by side. In a burial depth greater than 1 meter, one rescuer shovels immediately downhill of the probe strike, while the other begins excavating downhill at 1.5 times the burial depth. With a burial depth less than 1 meter, 2 rescuers begin shoveling immediately downhill of the probe strike, and 1 rescuer begins shoveling at 1.5 times the burial depth. In a burial greater than 1 meter, you can follow the same techniques as we just discussed. However, in really deep burials of 2 meters or more, the secondary shoveler's role is to clear snow from the hole and to prepare the area for treating the victim. With a burial depth less than 1 meter, 2 rescuers begin shoveling immediately downhill of the probe strike, and 2 rescuers begin shoveling behind them at 1.5 times the burial depth. With a burial depth greater than 2 meters, you can start with the same layout of manpower as we just discussed. However, once the primary shovelers begin moving snow downhill, you may want to pull one of the secondary shovelers out of the hole. In a burial depth less than 1 meter, 2 rescuers begin shoveling immediately downhill of the probe. 2 rescuers begin shoveling downhill of the probe at 1.5 times the burial depth, while the 5th shoveler should prepare the site for first aid and evacuation and rotate in as the primary shovelers get tired. By remembering and practicing these strategic shoveling techniques, you are preparing yourself for greater success if an avalanche rescue situation happens to you.
For more information, visit backcountryaccess.com/education.